Morning glory and evening grace, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Welcome. Bret Baier is the anchor of Fox News. Special report every night at 6 p.m. in the East. Bret also sat down with President Trump for his first of what I hope are 4 Super Bowl interviews at Mar-a-Lago before flying off to the Super Bowl. Bret Baier joins me now. Hello, Bret. How are you?
Hey, Hugh. Doing well.
Did you book next year's Super Bowl already with the president?
It's not our game, so hopefully it'll be somebody else's interview. But I thought, it was an example of why President Biden should have done those interviews. We had one, obviously, where he turned down, and he turned down one with CBS as well. But President Trump obviously wanted to do it, and we flew down to Mar-a-Lago to do it.
I enjoyed it, Bret. And I got to say, then you went to the Super Bowl. I asked Dwayne to ask you that. Did you understand the halftime show? I'm reading about the secret messages in Lamar's halftime show, but I didn't understand it at all. Did you?
No, not at all. I was in the stadium and I didn't understand anything. So
let's go back to the president.
My kids did.
Oh, they did?
Explained it to me.
Oh.
And the whole Drake thing and all of that. But no, it didn't work for me. But I guess it worked for some.
Okay. I want to go back to the interview. You've interviewed President Trump many, many times. What was different about this time?
Well, first of all, I've said to you before, I think he's comfortable in his skin. And he knows what he wants. It's tough, and you know this. You've had him on the show many times. He does that thing, the weave, and he goes from one thing to another, and you got to get him back on the topic that you asked about. But he did make some significant news in that interview. He kind of deepened his explanation about what his vision is for Gaza,
yes,
which he talked about again today with the King of Jordan. He talked about Ukraine and having some kind of equity deal with rare earth minerals, and the fact that essentially he thinks that they're going to get to the table. And this comes today, as Zelensky says, he's ready to give Russia some territory back, and Russia releases this American prisoner, Vogel, and we could be seeing the beginning of what looks like a negotiating table being set up.
Now, earlier today, in the first hour of the program, Bret, I interviewed John and Rachel Goldberg-Polin. Their son, Hirsch, of course, murdered by Hamas in late August. And yesterday, John Polin said, release all the hostages right away. And today, they didn't walk it back, but they urged that the process not break down after Donald Trump basically echoed John's remarks yesterday and gave an ultimatum. I don't think he's backing away from that ultimatum. What do you think?
I don't think so either. And Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu gave a speech shortly thereafter saying essentially the same thing and positioning Israeli defense forces on the outskirts of Gaza, prepared to deal and release the ceasefire if that deadline's not met. So it was backed up by the Israelis on the ground, and the president said it again today.
Are you staying close to your studio noon Saturday?
Yes.
Yeah. That's what I really do think the war is going to resume. Do you think that it's possible the United States would strike at Iran?
No.
Okay.
I think also in that news of that interview was that his wish about Iran is that that they do not get to that point. And he senses, he at least forecasts that there's a deal in the making, and a deal in the making with Iran, a deal in the making with Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, as far as what the future holds for Gaza, a deal in the making with China on tariffs and negotiations on TikTok. I mean, he is very bullish on all of the deal-making possibilities, but we'll see what comes to pass.
Some of our friends and competitors on other networks are declaring a constitutional crisis, and I think that's ridiculous. But what do you think, Bret?
Well, I agree. I mean, listen, some of these Democrats were the same Democrats that urged President Biden to ignore the courts when it came to student loans, to ignore the courts when it came to mandates on vaccines. And look, I just don't think that district judges, where these prosecutors go to, and sometimes they're judge shopping specific places in Rhode Island, Delaware, and New York. that they can oversee the executive branch on this Doge issue and federal spending. Congress has the power of the purse. They are saying they are in to this effort to try to find waste, fraud, and abuse. And, I think it will come to a head probably at the Supreme Court, but these individual judges with freezes, I'm not sure have the power of the executive, the president who was elected by the American people.
Yeah, you are frequently talking with Andrew McCarthy, and I think he is the equal of any legal analyst out there, but there are a lot of bad ones as well. Let me wrap up this way, Bret. I've asked you this before, but I like to go back to it. You've been doing this a long time. I've been doing this a lot. I have never seen this pace of news. It's just literally every hour. So that you tape an interview at Mar-a-Lago, it makes news on Sunday, it makes news on Monday, but then the news completely changes. And yesterday's news is no longer today's news. How long can this go on for?
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, the pace is fast and furious. It doesn't seem like President Trump is stopping that pace, and he kind of likes this pace. I do think that they had a number of things built in with executive orders over the first few weeks, but in the shock and awe of changing the government. But I don't know if this pace can continue for all 4 years.
Well, Bret, I appreciate your joining us. Congratulations. Great interview. Great ratings. My gosh, the ratings were off the 123 million or something like that.
127.7 million.
That is, and thank you for Tubi. Whoever's in charge of Tubi, because I, of course, again, couldn't make my YouTube TV work because I'm on the West Coast. And so I was back into Tubi. Thank God Fox had that available for people. It wasn't much of a game, though. Is that the worst Super Bowl you've ever seen?
Yeah, the crazy part is it's the most watched. So, 24-0 at halftime. I thought for sure the numbers would go down, but they didn't. And, at the highest, it was about 138 million people watching.
Yeah. Wait till the Browns get there. It's going to be wild. Bret Baier, thank you. As always.